Organizations do not change at the pace of technology. They change at the pace of people. In other words, this is a people challenge, not a technology challenge. So how do we get our people being comfortable and embracing the technology and working together as a team to improve our processes? This is the really hardcore work.
Jim Harris is one of North America's foremost management consultants, authors, and thinkers on artificial intelligence, disruptive innovation, change, and leadership. His presentations and consulting work have helped companies anticipate change and adjust to and stay ahead of emerging market trends. He's the #1 international best-selling author of Blindsided, and his newest book, The Age of Fakes: How AI Abuse, Fake News, and Deepfakes Threaten Business and Society, reflects years of research on the risks and responsibilities of responsible AI governance. Jim's recent participation at the World Economic Forum in Davos and the Mobile World Congress in Barcelona reflects his standing as a go-to commentator on the trends shaping the global economy. Our last webinar with Jim has gained over 1 million YouTube impressions, and he's such a win-win partner, current on the awareness needed in this age of AI, that we had to bring him back for you. For more than 30 years, he's worked with executives and organizations in every industry on innovation, including a number of industries joining us today: real estate, manufacturing, associations, financial services, construction, healthcare, and more. Please join me in welcoming disruptive innovation consultant and AI advisor, Jim Harris.
Hello, hello. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yay. Well, it is amazing to be here with NSB and GSA outside of Canada and to celebrate the 50 years. We're going to have a lot of fun today, and we're going to have some chance for Q&A. As Teresa mentioned, this new book just came out on February 11th. It's on Amazon.ca, it's on .com, it's globally published. And everybody can access the first chapter, which is mine. I'll give you a QR code that can give it to you for free. We're living in an age of deep fakes where we can no longer trust what we see and what we hear. So I don't know if you heard about Erupt. It's a global design architectural firm. And the CFO called the accounts payable clerk in Hong Kong and said, look, we have a terrible, terrible crisis here. We have not paid our most important supplier in 90 days. And if it goes literally one more day, we're going to lose them. And as a company, we're dead. And so I want you, and it wasn't just the CFO calling, it was other people on the finance committee from the UK. If I want you to transfer 200 million Hong Kong dollars to these 15 accounts. We're not even going to send the money to head office of the supplier and have them distribute it. We're going to directly pay these 15 supplier locations. And so the accounts payable clerk did it. The only problem was it was a deep fake video, not just of the CFO, but all the finance committee people. So how do we, now the good news is 200 million Hong Kong dollars is only 26 million US dollars. So yay, not as big a problem. But how do you defeat that? And the answer is if the accounts payable clerk had just picked up the phone and called the CFO and said, hey, did you just ask me to transfer 200 million Hong Kong dollars to these 15 accounts? He would have said, what are you talking about? So we can defeat these things very easily, but it means that every single person in your organization needs to be trained in cybersecurity. So every year I go to the World Economic Forum in Davos. I go to the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas and Mobile World Congress. And misinformation and disinformation is the #2 most severe risk that we face globally, according to the 2026 WEF Global Risk Report. And that's in the short term. So this isn't just a nice to do, making sure people understand this and how to defeat it. It's a must to do. So and I'd love you to comment in the chat as we go through with your insights. And so we are living in the most uncertain business time in my business career. I don't know if any of you remember the Karate Kid and Mr. Miyagi. He had a philosophy of wax on, wax off, wax on, wax off, tariff on, tariff off, tariff on, tariff off. So today we have a 75% tariff on Canadian steel, and then the next day it's 18%, and then the next day it's 225%. And this is just whipsawing decision-making and paralyzing corporate decision-making. I was at the Consumer Electronics Show, and I was interviewing one of the C-suite of Brunswick Boats. They make, they're the leading boat supplier in the US, and they have literally hundreds of thousands of parts that go into making their various models. And if there is any steel in those, they have to completely recalculate the input cost of all those hundreds of thousands of SKUs every time there's a new announcement about tariffs on Twitter. So the engineers were going crazy because their entire lives were just spent recalculating the input cost of hundreds of thousands of parts. So they designed a custom AI that does all that instantly in real time. So how in this time of uncertainty can we thrive? I'm going to play you a little clip from an insight that I shot in Davos and the insight was from the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas, January 2026. Here we are in beautiful Davos. I'm Jim Harris. I've been coming here for more than 15 years. This year at Davos, the #1 topic again is AI. Last year there was a great deal of discussion about AI, but it was more proof of concepts and piloting. And this year it's more in production. I interviewed the head of AI for Ernst & Young USA. E&Y has 400,000 employees globally, and they've spent $1 billion on AI. And Tracy shared with me a fascinating discussion. There was a 46-hour risk management process that they ran for clients, and they decided we're going to apply AI. So the people who designed the process worked with AI and got it down to 32 hours, and that was great. That's a 20% improvement. But then they thought, let's try another experiment. They took people who'd never been involved in either the process or designing it, but they were tech-forward, AI-first people and risk management people, and together they got the process down to 15 minutes. That's staggering. They then said, we want to make sure that the data is accurate and there's compliance and integrity. So they added steps back in, and in the end it was 6 hours. So look at that, from 46 hours to 32 to 15 minutes to 6 hours. That's a more than 80% reduction on the original process. So there are a couple of lessons for me that come out of this. One, we can't pave the cow path. In other words, we can't just take historical, 2018 processes and just slap AI on top of them. To really get the full benefit of AI, we have to say, let's redesign from first principles. Let's start with a blank sheet of paper and design this process and involve people in a collaborative way who are not beholden to the old way of working. That's where the greatest gains will come from. And then, of course, we redeploy people on greater value-added processes. So this has been something that was an interview I did at CES. So I want to give you an example for the meeting planning industry. I've been doing this for 36 years, and for many international conferences, there would be translation booths at the back of the room with 2 translators per booth, and the most I've ever had was 6 languages. So and then every single participant would get a little headset and a radio receiver. For a 4-day international congress, 6 languages is $100,000. But there is AI today where a speaker at the front can be speaking English. It goes into an AI that's called Wordly, and it translates in real time into 120 languages. And people get to use their smartphone with their earbuds, so there's no special equipment to rent. And they can listen to it. Now, I was at a conference where this was being used, and beside me was a deaf French woman. But wait, there's more. Ginsu knives are in this deal. She couldn't hear the French, but it also provides subtitles. So she was reading in French what the English speaker at the podium was saying. But the greatest thing of all this, instead of $100,000, I feel a Dr. Evil moment, $100,000, it was $1,500. So as a meeting planner, are you utilizing the most powerful, latest AI tools? I want to have some surprising insights here for you. In 2025, for the first time in the last 20 years, Amazon became the largest company in the US by revenue, exceeding Walmart. So many people said that Amazon, you could ignore it for years because it wasn't making money until that trend overwhelms you. OpenAI just yesterday announced that it had raised $122 billion at an $850 billion valuation. It is the fastest growing technology of all time. It took the internet more than 13 years to reach 800 million users, and it took ChatGPT less than 3 years. So this tech revolution is happening at warp speed. I don't know if any of you have seen Landman. It's on Amazon Prime, and just a warning here, don't watch it if you haven't watched it, because it's addictive and you'll have to watch the whole thing, binge it. Billy Bob Thornton is amazing. But I was working with a CEO in the oil patch who's in land management. And her job was to assemble 300 pieces of land for a client. And the way she historically would have done it is an 80-hour, 300-row spreadsheet, like name of first owner, date they bought the property, survey of the property, are there easements on it, what they paid for it, on, 80 hours. But with a very good prompt, she pointed it at 2 Government of Alberta websites, and that work was done in 5 seconds. So my question to you today is, do you think AI will change the way business works? And now as a CEO, her time can be repurposed to work on client service, acquire new customers, improve customer satisfaction. So really, what AI is doing is accelerating cycle time. And when I've worked with clients here in Ontario, there is a program that gives small and medium-sized businesses up to 83.3% of their training dollars back. And we've done hundreds of thousands of dollars of training with Ontario firms because of this. If you're interested, let the NSB team know. But what we're really selling is cycle time. So imagine dull, repetitive, brain-dead processes that you have in your organization are able to be automated, giving people the chance to do more interesting, exciting work. So this is how long it took different technologies to reach 50 million customers. Up on the top left, it took the airline industry 68 years to reach 50 million customers. And on the bottom right, you can see it took Pokemon Go 19 days. So my question to you is, are you changing as fast as technology is? Now, I can hear what some people might be thinking. Jim, that Pokemon Go is a game for little children. Okay, well, ChatGPT took 50 days to reach 50 million customers. Are you changing as fast as it is? Here are other things that are changing. The price of lithium ion batteries has fallen 99% over 33 years to a point where now, in 8 countries, the majority of new car sales are EVs, electric vehicles. And China has become the largest car exporter in the world, crushing Japan's record. For more than 2 decades, Japan ruled. And that led, just 4 days ago, the CEO of Toyota to say, we may not survive if we don't change. The largest car company in the world by sales volume is saying it may not survive. So this disruption that I've been talking about for years is very important. Now, radiology. Many people are worried about losing their jobs to AI. And one of the first medical applications for AI was radiology. And in 2019 and 2020, AI could read X-rays better than a radiologist. And many people thought that is the death of radiology. I want to play you a little clip from Jensen, who is the CEO of NVIDIA. This was recorded just last week.
Computer vision is completely superhuman. Every radiology platform and package today is driven by AI. And yet, the number of radiologists grew. And so the question is why? And we now have a shortage of radiologists in the world. And so, one, the alarmist warning went too far and it scared people from doing this profession that is so important to society. And so it did harm. Now, why was it wrong? The reason why is because the purpose of a radiologist, the purpose, is to diagnose disease and help patients and doctors diagnose disease. And because we're able to study scans so much faster now, you could study more scans, you could diagnose better, you could inpatient faster, you can see people more. The hospitals are making more money. You have more patients in the hospital. You need more radiologists. I mean, the amazing thing is, it's so obvious this was going to happen.
So, and it's not just about speed, it's also about cost. In 1980, a phone call from Toronto to Paris, France, adjusted for inflation, was $10 US a minute. So if you had 30 people on a 3-hour conference call doing a strategic planning exercise, that cost $50,000. But today, with Zoom, it's free. So look at how deflationary tech, AI, and innovation is. And if we don't embrace AI, if we don't embrace innovation, if we don't embrace change, then our organizations are going to be left behind by our competitors. And so really, it's not just about the speed, it's also about the cost. And people are worried about job loss. But in 1980, the total number of minutes globally was 3 trillion minutes. That's all countries, all telecommunications combined. Today, Zoom does more all by itself, one company. And so there is an elasticity of demand, just like the radiology examples. When the cost of reading X-rays declines, we use more of them. We don't need less radiologists, we actually need more. And so this is a story that is not being properly told about AI. And we need to understand it because people fear it. I don't know if you've had this experience. You hire somebody and then they ghost you before their first day of work even begins. I was working with some CEOs last week, and one of them said this. So we need AI in order to cover positions that are doing brain dead things, repetitive tasks, in order for people to go on mat leave and for the organization to continue to deliver value. I'm going to pause in 2 minutes for Q&A, but I want to just suggest that just like Charles Dickens said in A Tale of Two Cities, we're living in the best times. It was the worst of times. So the worst of times is the fraud that I talked of erupt at the start. But some of the best things, here's one example. So every 7 years, I go for a new headshot. It costs me $350. I have to buy some new Hugo Boss suits, but I have to take a half day off work. And if I were running $100 million company, that would be tens of thousands of dollars of opportunity cost. Or I can just load a bunch of headshots in and have one of the many headshot services create a new headshot for me. Now, I did this one. A friend of mine said, did you use the Brad Pitt good looks filter in your prompt? I'll give you another example. When I brought my first book out that I wrote 36 years ago, it was called The 100 Best Companies to Work For in Canada. It was a national bestseller. I could have gone into a studio and recorded an audiobook. It would have cost me $10,000. A friend of mine just used 11 Labs to clone his voice. You can't tell it's not his voice. And then fed that, integrated with ChatGPT and fed his new book in 3 pages at a time and got a new audiobook for less than $100. Absolutely staggering. So from $10,000 to less than 100, is this going to change training and development? There are so many things I want to talk to you about, but I'm going to pause for a minute for some Q&A, and then we'll come back. I have a couple more things to share with you. Teresa or Michelle, what have you seen in the chat about questions?
Thank you, Jim. We've had some great chat going on, sharing ideas about some of the efforts that audience members have made and systems that they're using and seeing some of the improvements that you're talking about, which is really encouraging, and just gives a bit of a full circle approach. Feel free to put in any additional questions along the way. We have a question about you touched on a few industries in your talk, and so now there's a question about how do you see the AI play a role in the home building or construction industry?
Oh, this is a great question. So I was working with a bunch of CEOs in construction, and one of them said to me, Jim, I have to tell you, AI will have no impact on my business because we are steel girders and cranes, we are bricks and mortar. And I said, fair enough. If you believe that, it is really true. A friend of mine who's in marketing started her AI first marketing company 3 years ago. And in her first year, she had a construction client who paid her $284,000, and she got them $8.8 million of business from clients they had never interacted with, prospects, by automating their sales and marketing stack. But clearly, AI will have no impact on the construction industry. Like that CEO's mindset says, no, we are a physical industry. This can have no impact for us. But AI can impact every single function in an organization. And marketing has no bricks and mortar, and sales has no bricks and mortar or steel girders and cranes. But this mindset is the most important thing. Great question. Thank you so much for kicking us off with that.
Thank you. And then there's a couple of questions on a similar theme about the Environmental impact. What about the environmental and water consumption? What's
This
your
is a
perspective?
great question, and I just wrote an article for Corporate Knights magazine. In North America, in Toronto, in fact, is even worse. Buildings consume 54% of electricity in keeping them warm and, air circulation and all those things. AI can save more energy in buildings than it costs to run in electricity. In other words, using AI for efficiency is a net gain. And if we used our data centers to the highest efficiency standards, there's 200 gigawatts of data center capacity available, but we haven't optimized for efficiency yet. So it is a very important point, and I'll post in the chat the link to that, or if you look Corporate Knights Magazine, Jim Harris, Energy Efficiency, you'll find that article.
Thank you for that, Jim, and we'll include that in our follow-up as well. More questions. We've got a question from Margie, and you had started the talk a bit about the importance of security. And Margie says, I was recently at a conference about the lack of government policy and guardrails related to AI. Do you have any thoughts about that?
Well, I'm organizing a national conference for Q1 of 2027 in Kananaskis, and this is going to be one of the areas of focus. But Stephen Covey, I used to represent Stephen Covey, who taught the 7 habits of highly effective people. And Stephen had a philosophy that you have to train every single person in 7 habits to change the culture and create a common language. And it's exactly the same with AI training. If you are not training every single person, I was working with CEOs, and one of them had hired a training firm to come in and train his entire staff in what is phishing and how to prevent it and how to see it. And then 2 weeks after the training, really successful training, the training company launched a fake phishing attack, and 20% of employees keyed their login into it. So training is not a one and done. This is a continuous effort. And people are literally afraid of AI. 63% of Canadians are afraid of AI, that they're going to lose their jobs. If you are afraid, you will never learn anything. You are going to resist it, and the culture won't change, and your competitors, if they embrace it, will leave you behind. So one of the things that was most exciting for me is in this training we did with a manufacturing firm, 4 of the people who were most negative at the start of the 12-week training were the most excited by the end. The only way you change people from being fearful to being excited is through hands-on engagement with the tools, and they see how powerful they are.
Thank you. And that actually leads into maybe 2 questions that are here, and we'll have those likely as our last questions. There was one about as individuals, how do we determine what is fake or not? And some of it is, I think, connected to that training within an organization so that people get better skilled at noticing it. And then you touched on some of the fears, and there's a question from John about what are the top 3 fears that organizations have when implementing AI into their processes, and how would you address those fears?
Okay, while I'm answering this question, I'm just going to share my screen so
Great.
that you can see it. Can you see it here?
Yes, we see the QR code.
Okay, so this is a QR code that lets you connect to me 19 different ways from Sunday. And just take a picture of it, and you can connect with me later. I'm on LinkedIn, I don't think Facebook's on there, but Twitter and their resources. And then this is the second code. Take a picture of this, and you can answer these questions afterwards. But this is the QR code that lets you download a dozen AI resources. And one of these resources is a YouTube video that this morning broke 4.2 million views on the AI revolution. The video that was in this presentation from Davos is in that. The chapter link, so you don't have to spend $35 on Amazon to get the new chapter of the book because it's the lead chapter. So there's a ton of stuff with this QR code. So how do we tell if things, so just take a picture. You can answer the 75 seconds of questions later, or you can do it now. So what are like the tools to help you? I'm going to give you one tool I call antagonistic prompting. So you prompt for something in ChatGPT and you get the answer. And then you take both the prompt and the answer and you put it in Google's Gemini and you say, show me the deficiencies in this answer. And you will sharpen any hallucinations. Then you can do it with Grok and Claude and on and on and on. So that is step number one. But step number two is I see so many things on social media. I will take an image from social media and post it into ChatGPT and say, is this authentic? And it will come back and say, no, this is a fake image. In other words, I'm using AI to help me determine whether something is accurate or not. And there's a prompting course in those dozen resources that is the best prompt. It's by section. It's not even my course, but it's there for free. It's an hour long. And if you take that course, you'll be way better at prompting. You'll get infinitely better answers, which are very important. So I'll give you an example why that's so important. If I type into ChatGPT 5.2, tell me everything there is to know about queens, I get a terrible answer. Why? Because I gave it no context. Was I talking about Queen's University where I graduated? Was I talking about Queens next to the Bronx in New York City? Was I talking about how a queen moves on the chessboard? Or how a beehive orients itself around the queen bee? Or was I talking about Freddie Mercury, the front man of Queen? Or was I talking about a drag queen? Like, the LLM doesn't know. I provided no context, so I got a garbage answer back. And then I think, well, this is a stupid technology, unaware that I had something to do with it. So I need to improve my skills in prompting in order to get better outputs from these tools. And that in 2022, the tools were, text-based, and then audio-based, and now video-based. So we are increasing the value that these tools, AI tools, provide to us in business.
Looking forward to that package of information that you're talking about, Jim. Sounds like a lot of goodness in there that will certainly help our audience. And I think you have covered, but there is still a question if you've got another minute.
I do. I have as long as people would like to. The last webinar we did was supposed to only be 30 minutes, and it went 45 minutes because people were so interested. I'm willing to stay an extra 15 minutes or however long people want to ask questions.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And maybe just to acknowledge that we are just past our half an hour, I'll use this opportunity to just thank you, Jim, for highlighting all these challenges of uncertainty and disruption, but also showing the opportunity of how we can thrive through all this with an innovation mindset and a mindset of an approach and an action, not to just add on AI, but really think about the process and designing new processes. And I love that reference to the improvement of cycle time and how you gave a real life example where it's true. AI can help us with so much information and insight, but then we need the humans for judgment and decisions and next steps. And it's just going to mean hopefully more opportunities all around. So,
and
yeah.
Really, people don't understand this cycle time is perhaps the greatest gift that AI can give to us. If you are having to type in manually numbers, into a spreadsheet. This is not value added work, and we should never have been doing it in the first place. So
Thank you. And thank you to our audience for joining us with these webinars. Hopefully there's some personal and professional insights that you can use for your organization. And as always, we are here to help you with really great, insightful speakers like Jim. Hopefully Jim's a great match for some of what your organization is going through and the messaging you want to share, either with your members or your clients or your team. So we are happy to help out. And we will follow this up with a recording and all the resources that Jim mentioned. So thank you for joining us, and we will stick around just for a couple more minutes and answer some of the last questions that are here. Jim, you touched on it a bit. There's a question about small and medium-sized businesses and how their experience with AI might differ and how they can start incorporating AI use better with their teams.
that's a great one. And AI is a tremendous leveler of the playing field. Things that only large companies could do in past, now small and medium-sized organizations can do it. But part of it goes back to that training issue that if I have a brand new computer at my desk, but I don't know how to turn that computer on, it offers me no strategic advantage. So training is an absolute key, and the technology is blisteringly far advanced and at the fastest pace we've ever seen. But organizations do not change at the pace of technology. They change at the pace of people. In other words, this is a people challenge, not a technology challenge. So how do we get our people being comfortable and embracing the technology and working together as a team to improve our processes? This is the really hardcore work. I put in the chat the Corporate Knights magazine article on energy efficiency. I don't think it was in the deck, like the handout resources. And I'm just going to share one more little piece, which is fun, Teresa. I'm going to share my screen. This is the artist Salvador Dali, who is, there's a museum in St. Petersburg, Florida, dedicated 100% to Dali. And they used an AI to ingest everything he's ever written, everything on radio and television about him, and they've created an AI that is like him. And their first instance was an 8-foot iPad like we have here.
Greetings. I am Salvador Felipe Jacinto Dali y Domenech, and I am back.
So when I was a kid and you were going through a museum or an art gallery, you could rent little headsets and wear them around. And you'd be in front of painting number 43, and you'd hit 43 and it would narrate. But today, we have an AI, and I called the St. Petersburg Museum and said, did you shrink it down onto a smartphone so that the kids and even the adults can just listen on their earbuds as they go from painting to painting or sculpture to sculpture? They haven't done that yet. But if you were to ask Salvador, and he speaks in his own accent, like, Salvador, why did you have these melting timepieces? He would say, I had a dream of melting camembert cheese in the hot sun. And it made me think about the ephemeral nature of time and memory. Like, isn't that fascinating that you get to actually interact with Salvador, the artist? Isn't that more compelling for our kids? I find this just so exciting. And they haven't shrunk it down, but by 2030, the cost to create that bot will only be $30, according to Kathy Wood of ARK Invest. And so I'm going to leave you with this conundrum. The father of modern psychology is Martin Seligman. He was also the head of the Psychology Association. And one of his grad students in China took all his writing, ingested it into an AI, and created a Ask Martin chatbot because billions of Chinese suffer anxiety and depression, lots of pressures in the society. I shouldn't say billions, hundreds of millions. And the grad student, the PhD, the doctor, did this without Martin's knowledge or permission. And initially, when he found out, Martin was upset. But after playing with the chatbot, he said, "Oh my God, this is fantastic." And he's in his mid 80s, so he's not doing a lot of touring or writing or speaking. This becomes a legacy project for him. So he actually has, in the end, given his blessing to it. So think about this. If you ask Martin a question, do you get the answer, Martin, as a 26-year-old grad student himself? Or do you get an answer as the 85-year-old Martin with, 60 years of wisdom? Or does the LLM, does the chatbot give you all the answers and how they've shifted over his career? These are fascinating examples or ways of looking at it. And we are coming up to 145, which is about when we finished our last one a year ago. I love these webinars. I want to thank the NSB team. I have been working with NSB and GSA for more than 30 years. I'm one of the longest serving resources for NSB's clients. And I just love NSB and everyone and want to celebrate the 50 years with you, Teresa, Christy, everyone who's on the call, all the gang out in the Vancouver office. And I'm always here and always happy to do a discovery call before you even make your final decision. I'll turn it over to you, Teresa.
Thank you, Jim. That's a lovely way to end it. And this is part of why we have such a great partnership together, trying to support each other in sharing some of the messaging and learning so that all of our clients can benefit. Really appreciate it. Thank you in the chat for your notes. John says hello from Seattle, Jim, and such an informative session. Thank you, Vivienne. Enjoy the rest of your day, everyone. Take care.